You're either going to get healthier and wealthier, or you're going to go bust. Your choice. It sits between your ears, your heart, your body, your mind, your spirit, your attitude. This could be the best thing that ever happened to you, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. To teach there's two kinds of people in the world, wimps and pimps. And a wimp will always say, "Where is my paycheck, sir?" And a pimp will say, "Put it in my pocket, sugar." So you're either a wimp or a pimp right now. This coronavirus is bigger than 9/11 or Pearl Harbor or anything we've ever seen before. And on the biggest picture of all, the coronavirus and the coming crash, financial collapse possibly, marks the end of the industrial age and the beginning of the information age. It's a very big move. And the people that are in trouble today are people still stuck in industrial age thoughts. The people that are struggling financially haven't moved on yet. So that is my message, that is your message. It's time to move on. So being target market for coronavirus, look, let me give you my health problems here. I've had pneumonia 3 times. I've had malaria. I've had open heart surgery. I've had cancer. Now, that's the bad news. You know what the good news is? I'm aware I had to become healthier. I don't want some vaccine to protect me. It's my responsibility to protect myself. So that's all it is to me. Now, if you're in trouble today, my message is not so kind. This is hard talk, not happy talk. The crisis is in your head. Now, that's the bad news. The good news, you can change the crisis by changing what's inside your head. And so I hate to brag, but I'm doing extremely well financially today because as I was warning everybody, this crisis was coming. But it would be irresponsible of me to warn people of the crisis and not personally make changes myself. The virus is real. The question is, how healthy are you? So I could be a victim right now saying, I have heart disease, diabetes, I'm overweight. I've had pneumonia 3 times. I've had malaria. And all that did was inspire me to be healthier. And so let me give you my definition of health. Health is mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and then physical health. So I spend a lot of money and time on my mental health, my emotional health, my spiritual health, and my physical health. And the average person goes to their doctor once a year for an annual checkup. That's not health. That's called medicine. So this is my biggest complaint, is that who determines our medicine is the insurance companies, some of the biggest financial institutions in the world. So the average person, because they have no wealth, can't afford my health care. They can't afford my, the physician I see is $5,000 a visit. And if you have health insurance, they won't see you. So that's healthcare and wealth care. So if you're still thinking your physician is going to save you, that's old thinking. If you think that you spiritually can do what you don't like, that's old thinking. Job security and all that's old thinking. If you think you can just, if physical exercise for you is shopping, you're out of luck. And mental health is crucial. What thoughts do you have in your head? If you think this is a bad time, guess what? You're right, it's bad. But if you think this is possibly the best time for you, you can move forward. Those of you at home right now who are sitting going, but I'm going to lose my job, my house, my pension, and all this, it's because you're trapped with old thoughts. And as most people know, is that, when I came up with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 20-something years ago, mainstream media crucified me. They said, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, the rich don't work for money. Savers are losers. Your house is not an asset. And I was crucified, just crucified. And the good news is, as several of your guests have said, the most important thing you can have right now is not job security, but meaningful work. Because the real problem of this crisis started back in 1904, when the richest guys on earth took over the education system in the United States. They formed a thing called the General Education Board. It was formed by guys like Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan. And what they pulled out of education was financial education. And so the reason they could rip us off, as you and I know, is via the mechanism of money. And that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was a warning shot across the bow back in 1997. I said, wake up, something's coming down the road. If you're losing money right now, the problem starts in what you were taught in school. Because they never taught you anything about money. They never taught you about a financial statement, like my rich dad did. They teach you that diploma is everything. It's a piece of toilet paper. Yeah, and the harder you work for money, the poorer you're gonna get. That's the tragedy. So this is how what Fuller talked about, the prison is inside our head, Buckminster Fuller. It starts with misinformation and misorientation. Misinformation, misorientation. And he says, how dare our schools punish kids for making mistakes? How else do you learn if you don't make a mistake and learn from your mistake? He says, God designed us. I'm not really religious, I'm not preaching here, okay? God designed us to learn by making mistakes. For instance, a baby learns to walk by falling down. Baby learns, to ride a bicycle by falling off the bicycle. Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer ever in history of the world, because he made more mistakes than you and I did. But our schools punish you for making mistakes. That's misorientation, misinformation. The national debt for World War II was $25 billion. Every day today, they're printing $125 billion. Every single day, that's like 5 World War IIs per day. They're printing so much money to keep this think of a hot air balloon with a tear in it. And they're doing desperately trying to fix this tear, but no matter how hard they try, the tear has gone beyond, it's coming down. So in financial terms, it's called our debt to GDP has now gone from 60 to 90 to 105, it's going to 120. We're bankrupt. And they're going to print more and more money, which means savers are losers, just as I predicted. Your money is going to be worthless in a few years. Because every problem makes me stronger. But if you can have that attitude, improve your financial education, you'll do fine. This will be the best thing that ever happened to you. If not, this is the worst thing that happened to you. And if you're standing in front of the mirror today, with this coronavirus and looming depression, how did I get here is the question. What don't I know? What did my information, education, cultural background, what did not prepare me for today? That's where the transformation or the metamorphosis begin. I mean, you take responsibility. Everybody talks about rights, but we have personal responsibilities too. Unfortunately, our university systems have failed us miserably. And the reason for that is every professor wants tenure. That's my whole family. That was the most important thing about getting a job was tenure, job security for life. And that's what they teach kids without knowing it. They teach kids that life is dangerous and you need to be protected. So they're immature. College professors are some of the most immature. They might be very smart mentally, but immature financially. They can't take care of themselves. So they're teaching kids to be victims. That's why these trigger mechanisms and you can't say words that are hurtful and all this stuff. So they're teaching that you're a victim, you're vulnerable. And what you teach and what I teach is that, hey, don't be a victim, be proactive. So we started this whole thing. Am I the worst case scenario? Am I the biggest target for coronavirus? Yeah. But as Dirty Harry said, make my day. The rich are hoarding gold and silver like toilet paper and guns. The poor and middle class are calling their financial planner, and the financial planner is telling them to stay in it for the long term. And meanwhile, the rich are getting out. Wake up. is my message.